Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Professor and the Pupils. Because I got a bunch of them today. Oh my
Good
goodness,
morning,
I got four of them.
Vietnam.
And we are welcoming a new member to today's crew. His name is Mr. U. If you think I'm exaggerating, look at his name. I'm not exaggerating that. So
Good morning.
I
What's up,
found
folks?
him off of Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I like to find people off of that venue. I've had a lot of them, and you're the latest in a long line. And looking forward to having you on more and more broadcasts. We're going to get everybody started with Mr. U, Mr. Me, Mr. Jacob, Mr. Jeremy, whatever the Mr. stuff. I knew I
Mr.
Mr. Kneecap.
Yeah, right. That's it too. That's a good comeback. So, anyways, it's pretty obvious. Today's subject matter is big time wrestling, and we have a lot more than that. So, stay with us the whole time, and I guarantee you'll definitely find that everything that we devise this show to be different falls into that particular category. Let me just let everybody know, though, that the Professor and the Pupil is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of the Professor and the Pupil, or Pupils in this case, can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Participate in the chat room is a good way to do it. Get definitely big consideration there. Send topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. Want to advertise cost efficiently? Call me 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes, but today she's getting us ready for the Atlanta Braves and the Miami Marlins. This here on Sunday, the Marlins have won the first two games, and they're looking for a sweep as they definitely try to go out there and make a run for the National League postseason. And when the Marlins get there, they have won 2 world championships, regardless of how you want to slice it. So, with that said, tonight's theme is that, or today, I'm used to doing them at night, but today's a beautiful day, is big time wrestling. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of our favorite wrestlers through the years. I've got 5, and everybody have at least 5, and then we'll transition over to MLS load management. Lionel Messi, so you won't want to miss this show. All right, Mr. U, we're going to begin with you. Boy, I'm going to have a blast with this one. This is going to be cool stuff. So, all right, let's talk about memories.
Oh, my goodness. No pressure. All right, so my 5 favorite wrestlers from the past.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, sure, absolutely.
I think I can do that. Mine's gonna probably be polarized in a lot of ways because I do these kind of polls once in a while, and nobody ever agrees with my stuff. But it's all good though. I'm kind of a not really a student, but I like classic wrestling too. Guys that have holes, traditionally trained wrestlers and stuff. So my 5 are Kurt freaking Angle. He's my GOAT number 1. I like Brian.
He said Kurt Angle.
Kurt Angle.
The Olympic champion.
Okay.
You know who Kurt Angle is? He's Brian Danielson from WWE and AEW fame. I love Ilya Dragunov. I've been watching a lot of his matches recently, and he's risen into my top 5. He's tremendous. I mean, mat wrestler, striker. I love what he does. Kenny Omega, he's up there for me. He's at the bottom of my top 5. Just fantastic wrestler though. And the other one is more of a classic, Dean Malenko, the man of 1,000 holes. That man can wrestle, man. He doesn't get enough credit for what he brings to the table. He's doing like backstage now, which is good. He's extended career, but that man was money in the ring. So those are my top 5. Go ahead, guys, sit down.
No, it's not about that. It's a personal list. Everybody has their opinion. It's much like that posterior part that no one likes to talk about because it usually stinks.
I see the meme on that one.
Well, that's a very appropriate analogy, Jeremy, for those people that haven't eaten breakfast yet. But okay, whatever. But that's all right. We'll leave it at that.
Hey, all right. I didn't want to get into the details or the semantics
that's all right.
of it.
That's all right. Quote while you're ahead here. Okay. And then if you're lucky, you'll have an opportunity to promote your thing if you stay on course, which I know you will anyways, but at least you're in the right attire. All right, Jacob, give me your 5.
Before I do it, I'm going to go remind Jeremy he was doing this earlier, and then he all of a sudden goes, he just puts his glasses on. One way is part to show his youth, and the other part the age.
Yep.
Okay. My 5, I'm not going to go to the favorites because they'll change differently. But let me say this. I'm going to go to box office.
Okay.
I'm going to go to box office. Number 1, Hulk Hogan, obviously. Number 2, I'm going to go to a Stone Cold Steve Austin / The Rock. Number 3, I'm going to go to Dusty Rhodes. Number 4, Flair. Number 5, Jim Londos. I'm going to go to Jim.
Right.
I'm going to go with Jim Londos. These are the 5. They were box office. They were the ones that basically the Rocks are the ones that everybody's just surrounded around, and be able to get to those things. Those are people that, I mean, as I said, a few of them could wrestle, some could not, but these are the ones that basically they're Dion. They're Deion Sanders. They're the ones that they'll get the 2 in the morning ratings.
So, Jacob, what I want you to do very closely, because I know a lot of people might have a hard time following the pace of the show. So let's just do it one more time very slow. You said Hulk Hogan was 1.
Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold and Rock tied for the 2 because of the box office. 3, Dusty Rhodes. 4, Ric Flair. 5, Jim Londos.
All right, so you got Dusty Rhodes, and give me another 1 or 2.
Ric Flair.
Ric Flair, okay.
And then Jim Londos, Londos. These are what I call Dusty. These are what I call Dion's. The ones that would get any of them that would get the 2 in the morning ratings.
No, that's fine. No, it's good. I mean, like I said, that's what makes it such a very compelling list, because our goal here is, and you say Dwayne Rock Johnson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And Stone Cold together at that one.
Yeah.
Stone Cold. Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, go ahead. We'll transition over to Jeremy.
All right. I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm a little more old school, and I'm older than Jacob wants to give me credit for it, because I am in my 50s. But anyways.
Old man.
My number 1 is Hulk Hogan. But in my top 5, I'm going to go back to a guy that was last a champion in 1972, Ben Justice. That's my number 2. Number 3, you got to put this group in there no matter what, because it transitioned through 2 wrestling channels, from WCW to WWE. You got to add the 4 Horsemen. If you're going to put Ric Flair in there, the 4 Horsemen's in there. Then you got the NWO, and then D-Generation X, because them were the draws for about a decade and a half.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, I love this list. That's why I'm glad I get to go last. All right. Well, you know what? You ready for mine? I'll tell you what I even learned when it comes to fighting techniques with some of these. These are really good stuff. Ready? I'm going to lead off with Bobo Brazil. Okay. Remember him?
Oh.
Well, that's mine, Mr. U. Okay. And you know what? My cats probably know it better than I am. They're good at headbutting, and so was he. Oh,
Cocoa butt.
Oh, my goodness. He had a coconut that could knock somebody to
Yes.
tomorrow. Bobo Brazil. Oh, my goodness. I'm telling you, he was unbelievable. So he was the nature of the headbutt. All right. Now, another one that most people probably don't know is Dandy Dan Miller. I don't know if anybody of you guys knew him outside of Detroit. But, I was a little guy growing up, okay? And you know what Dandy Dan Miller was good about? He had that arm claw hold, man. If you're really small and you can't beat the daylights out of anybody, you know what you do? You grab them by the claw, and boy, it hurts until they cringe and then they land. So if, not like I get into all these things called fighting, but this is a cool subject, man. And thanks to Mr. U, it got my wheels turning. So Dandy Dan Miller, the arm claw hold. And if you need a demonstration, grab them there and squeeze as hard as you can. And that distinct disadvantage you might have might be a little bit of an advantage. Good stuff. Okay. But, he wouldn't survive in today's era. But I'll tell you, he was fun back in the day. Pompero Firpo. This guy had more hair than anybody I have ever seen. And you know what? Everybody, I don't know what the trend is nowadays, because I guess there's a lot more people that are bald, but this guy had more hair than you have grass on a farm. So it seems, it really, Pompero Firpo, my goodness. Was there a part of his body that didn't have hair? Well, then again, I'm not going there, but Pompero Firpo, light him up. All right. Now, back in Metro Detroit, we had a guy called the Sheik. Oh, my goodness. Let's light somebody on fire and see what the daylights happens. My goodness. Yeah. And so we have the Sheik, and another one for Detroit legends, Dick the Bruiser. Okay, here's a guy that could really light it up too. Dick the Bruiser, a folk hero in Detroit. Now, I will tell you this, okay, and in this day and age, I'm going to mention that Brock Lesnar had to go back to wrestling because he wasn't any good on the football field anyways, and found out realistically that, hey, you know what? You can go out there and do what you want when you don't have the pads on, but all of a sudden, when you come down to earth here playing football, you're just one of us. And when you talk about all these other guys that eat the same amount of food and muscles that you are, Brock Lesnar has been limited to a whatever. Now, it gets even more interesting, okay? And you want to talk about growing up in the day. I don't know what this generation is like, but I love growing up when we were growing up. You want a good promoter? Let's go out there and have Eddie Creechman. Oh, I'm going to burn you. No bullshit. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I mean, that's a pretty good. I don't know if there's any video on Eddie Creechman. Oh, you know, bullshit. Got to do this. You got to tear you up.
He was this small. I know.
Yeah, remember? Okay, yeah, you remember. And if that wasn't good enough, we had a guy back in Detroit called Lord Layton. This guy was actually a wrestler, believe it or not. And what was good about him was you ever get in Lord Layton's face, he's going to stick it to you, this guy. He will. Don't you get near me or I'm going to. And he wasn't afraid to go in the ring either, this guy. I'm telling you, Lord Layton. And you know what's so good about back in the day? These events were held at Olympia Stadium in Detroit, okay? Former home of the Red Wings, and Cobo Arena. And back in the day, it was so fun that I used to like to watch the roller derby. Forget the cotton picking cartoons, a roller derby. Oh my goodness. My Saturday mornings back then were roller derby and big time wrestling.
You had complete intelligence when you were watching in the mornings. I can tell.
Oh, you know I did, man. Come on, Metro Detroit isn't only known for the main sport. We had some other stuff too. We really did. But and then if that wasn't good enough, I'll throw a couple more names that maybe you guys have or haven't heard. Remember Flying Fred Curry, the guy that used to go out there and kick people? Huh?
I don't know that.
Do you remember him? You?
No.
Oh, you don't.
I know the name.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. Let's see, Flying Fred. I didn't think you would with him. Let's see. You guys have any other ones from the old days?
Mark Lewin. Mark Lewin was Detroit. He used to have it with the Sheik. Mark Lewin. And, the biggest thing about Sheik that I noticed, because on Tubi, by the way, there's old Detroit wrestling going on right now. There's one thing I've actually been watching a couple before I go to sleep at night. One of the things I noticed is not only is Sheik the bad guy, but he wouldn't leave his bad guy roots, the heel roots, but any good guy that wanted to get any kind of revenge, they'd call on Sheik to help him. So he'd be kind of the assassin for them also, but he wouldn't leave his roots. So it's kind of interesting to see him play the good guy for the moment, but he didn't change anything.
Let me tell you, that was a great time to watch this stuff. My dad said, you need to go there. It's fake. I said, Dad, that's probably why I want to go to it because it is that much fun to watch this stuff. I don't want to get into the real. I wouldn't know if they were using ketchup to come up with the blood. I've heard all kinds of stories of that, but my God. Nope. Another interesting name here that I know, Mr. You probably haven't heard of, but I remember the Kabuki. Remember this guy here, the Japanese guy? Oh, do you remember Kabuki? Oh, yeah. He would go out there and do his little ritual. And then let's not forget Haystacks Calhoun and Andre the Giant. They were pretty cool too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean Haystacks Calhoun walked in there about 600 some pounds. I wonder what you could have done to knock this guy down because I got news for you. He was standing on his feet and how much effort. Yeah, but think about it. Those are some unbelievable. But Kabuki's act was pretty interesting. They all caught on to it eventually. Do the little walk around and then attack. My goodness, I could do play-by-play on the old-time wrestling. Well, of course, not everybody's dead, or many of them are. But then you had Haystacks Calhoun, and who else did I mention? We talk about Ben Justice. I remember him. He was really, really good. And Andre the Giant. Of course, I think he's still pretty.
Ben Justice lived in Hale, Michigan after he retired. I had the privilege of being his organ specialist that had to take care of his residents up there.
Oh, did you really?
So I got to see him at least once a month for about a year.
Oh, no kidding. Wow, that's unbelievable.
We always hear about the Great Muta, but the Kabuki, I think he probably started the whole green mist phenomenon.
Muta became more dangerous because he could do more with his body than the Kabuki, though.
You're talking about Great Muta?
Yeah. he could do more with his body, and he can move around so swiftly.
He was much more athletic.
But the big thing though, big things. I used to be a part of this message board called Wrestling Classics years ago, and everything like that. Before they all got we all had a falling out for our own things. I'm not going to bring up that story. It's ridiculous. We all had our own falling out, but it was. But the biggest thing is they've all gotten old and decrepit now, so I don't dare. And I see them once in a while, and they're just pandering idiots now. But it's like you learn when it comes to wrestling and their knowledge, and a lot of them have died off, but the ones that were there really gave a lot of history. So I learned about Detroit, I learned about Memphis, I learned about all that stuff, and it's like now it's sad now. It's sad to watch them now because they're pandering idiots and they're all getting old. And they're still on the message boards. But you learn a ton from that from when you get there and stuff. And I was always a wrestling fan. So it was nice while I was the time. I just want to be successful, and they're old. So I'm done with them.
The amazing part about it is when I was in junior high, I always thought of wrestling as being one of those sports like we were talking about. But I never realized the skill of wrestling when I was actually doing it in class, and it was anything but what it was on TV. And I did well actually in gym class with wrestling because I learned about the techniques back then. Back then I was a lot skinnier and I could move around. Now I'll do that, and all of a sudden that's 2 weeks in the hospital, and that'll be for another day. I invent more ways to get in the hospital than you can imagine. Anyhow, not that I do it on purpose, but but still. Well, let me tell you a funny story real quick. And I'll stay on point. I'm over at the Miami Hurricanes Bethune-Cookman game on Thursday, and I was telling Cam Gorby, the PR guy for the Miami Hurricanes, so I have a great working relationship with this guy. I said, you know what? I told Cam, I'm having surgery a week from Tuesday, in my back area. I said, you're going to be all right? I'll be all right. I won't miss any games if that's the joint. No, that's good. We like having you around. I tend to liven things up a little bit, as you could hardly tell. But anyway, yeah, right. Exactly, Jeremy. But no, I was just telling him, but back in the day, I told him on my 60th birthday, I go out there and go-karting, and I ended up fracturing a tailbone that led to where my situation is now. Wow. I said, but you know what, Cam, I wouldn't do anything to change anything the way I go things. I jump in start cars, go 147 and change behind the track. I get to do that. That's fun. But when you talk about wrestling in the past, I think this is where I'm going. And Mr. Yu, I know that you're very well-rounded. We'll be able to use you on a lot of different shows. I just felt this was a good opportunity to come out this first time talking about something I've been wanting to talk about. And since you have you follow it like you do, this is a good chance. I think the one thing that today's program is missing is a lot of what was good in the past. Okay. And this is just fun entertainment, no matter how it looks and how it presents itself. Yeah. And I think that's that's the one thing that intrigues me. So, Mr. Yu, any final thoughts about wrestling that you want to add to this thing?
I mean, it's probably going to go a lot deeper, so I'll try to keep it real short, but it's missing the ability to build stories too. I mean, right. I'm a published author, so I think about stuff in terms of story, foundation, plot. Right. I think about stuff like that. Even formulating the podcast every week, I think about building it. And one of the guys that are out there now, I don't know what they're thinking about, but they're not good at building stories, particularly in the biggest organization. They're not good at that. They kind of just throw stuff together and hope that people just like it. And most times fans do, because some of the fans are not known for their, for their intelligence to a degree. So the building the story, man, that's what I miss from time like Mid-Atlantic Wrestling and World Class. There was a story being built with Devon Harrison and Freebird. It was a story, and you can see it build over time. And it wasn't, built in 1 week, torn down the next week. It was built over time, and it made a difference. It made wrestling what it was back then. So I'm totally with you on that part, man. There's a lot to unpack about that, but
well, Mr. Yu, me and Denzel Snipes from Sideline, we have a show called Off the Top Rope Talk. We do it every Monday night, and we talk. And the one thing I bring up all the time is creative isn't creative. It's like to me, like the best stories that are of now have to deal with families that are putting adding their own thing in there and making it good, because you're talking the same creative that made, that was made Intercontinental Champion Cody Rhodes into Mini Goldust. And, you know, and they came up with this idea. You come up with this head, and it's like, it's not creative. And that's the point I was saying with everybody, is like, it's building a story. The stories that have been built over the last couple of years have always been the families that knew themselves. You know, they know themselves. I mean, you talk about Kevin Owens and Sammy, who've known each other from birth practically.
Yeah.
You know, or from their school, their best friends. You get the Rhodes family. You get I mean, everything that has to do with a family. That someone like Dusty can say, "Shut up, we're handling this." You know, or the Usos. Shut up, we got this. We know our family. That's where our family is. Everything else that you have to deal with, creative. They don't know anything. They're failed comedy writers.
Facts. How do you, Jacob? Quick question: how do you rank creative between WWE and AEW? Which one do you think is better at being creative?
Oh, garbage, both.
I'm
sorry, it's both.
I
think garbage.
It has to be
both,
one better than the other one. Both crap.
Because the best stories, like I said, is everyone that for reality that knows each other. Like I said, Sammy and Kevin, the Rhodes family, the Usos. You get any of those stuff. I think right now AEW might have a shot because it's obvious Adam Cole's going to turn on MJF, and that's going to be a great part. But the point I make is I think if you talk about it, it'd be AEW's, because I don't like failed comedy writers in any kind of room. I want to see Arn Anderson in that room. I want to see people that have put together stories in their past. I don't want to see failed comedy writers in Variety.
I'm with you. I think AEW had the edge too, but
I'm just saying it's just, see, to me, it's building the story. I've written scripts too. It's building a story.
That being said, Scott said something earlier about when we were skinnier and younger, we used to wrestle. Yeah, now if we got in that downward position, we'd get in traction just trying to get back up, Scott.
That's your fault, Jeremy. You don't do yoga.
I do yoga. I go over here and go over there, you know.
Hey, get around all you want, but I'll say one thing. I have the utmost respect for gymnasts. I really do. Because you want to talk. I love watching gymnastics, especially during Olympic competition. And, you know, when you appreciate these athletes, you know, I've always been a big boxing guy. Really never been sold on the UFC, although I did meet Chuck Liddell many years ago. It was really super. We had a lot of time together. But I think the thing is, and again, I'm not saying they're bad sports. It all depends on what era you were growing up in and what you appreciate at that time. So there's nothing against UFC or any of that stuff, or wrestling as the way we know it, because, you know, let's face it, the Vince McMahons out there, the Bob Arams or whoever promoted their sports, Don King, or what put those other sports on. Well, wrestling came in a time during back in the day where it was really good, lighthearted programming. It was really nothing totally exorbitantly violent about it because everybody knew it was fake. But yet, I think today's programming lacks. You know, that's why you have a lot of these classic channels, right? So you can go back to some of those to kind of get a feel for what you have there. But, you know, again, it's one of those things where, to me, I really like being able to address going back to the past. That's really what it's all about. And when we come up with all these classic things to talk about, this falls into what we're trying to do. So, you know, and being able to reminisce about all these wrestlers. Hey, Ken Bulrick, glad to have you on today. So,
hi, Dad.
So, you know, again, great way to start the morning. One other thing I want to talk about today before we call it a day, we're going to talk about MLS load management. And boy, this one came out yesterday, and there was no way I could not talk about this. Lionel Messi skipped Atlanta, the game last night against Atlanta. Is it football club? I'm not exactly.
Atlanta United.
Atlanta. Okay. And there was a crowd of 72,000 that turned out. Thankfully for Atlanta, they won 5-2. At least the 72,000 got their money's worth. But one fan actually paid close to $2,000 to see Messi play. Now, they say turf field didn't play a role. I might doubt that a little bit. And he found out through Twitter, X, you know, and they played a lot of games. Messi's played a lot of games since he signed in mid-July, and all of a sudden he came shuddering to a halt after 12 matches leading up to Saturday due to muscular fatigue. All right, Mr. U, I don't like the look of a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here, But let's face the reality. You talk about, to me, something that I despise, load management, let alone for somebody to pay $2,000 for a person they didn't see with arguably the greatest soccer player in the game right now.
Yeah, it has some NBA kind of feels to it, but that's something that's
Yeah.
in the NBA as well. I'm not the biggest soccer fan in the world. I try to look at it from here, and my mom is a much bigger fan than I am, but I don't like the whole load management idea. I kind of feel like you're giving preferential treatment to those that make more money. It feels like sometimes, and it's like that can't sit well for somebody in a team sport. I mean, 'cause if you've been in sports in any kind of capacity, there's somebody more talented than you. You know that everybody knows that the coaches make it clear, but you don't want to be the feelings that come with it. And it's okay. That person's more important than I am. They're gonna get to do more than I can get to do, or if they want to rest, they can rest. I won't get a chance to because I'm not as talented. It's a whole big Pandora's box you don't want to start opening. So I hate the idea of him being in that position where he can walk around for how many hours out of the game, whatever it was. It's not a good look, man. So I'm with you on a load management thing. I think it's a horrible idea. Play everybody best as you can. Hope that makes sense, man. But
No, I'm with you all the way. I really am. I mean, the reality is a lot of us here in South Florida and around the country saw. You just had to hope and pray that Lionel Messi will show up where he's at because they're charging a lot of money for the tickets. Absolutely. I know he obviously showed up in L.A. and that was a big, expensive ticket, but they got hit with Atlanta. I mean, let's face it, Atlanta has proven from what I've seen with the numbers, that's a heck of a soccer town. They love their soccer there. Yeah. And I've been to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. What a beautiful place that is. And the fact that they have the soccer team and they have the Falcons play in the same facility, to me, is unreal. But 72,000 people showed up. Atlanta wins, but they didn't get what they were paying for. Jacob, you're a resident of the Atlanta area. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a tough thing because when they first came in, you could feel that by itself anyway. It's like now they still fill, but this was an exciting point. But at the same time, this was an exciting moment and it got taken down. But at the same time, I'm surprised he didn't do this earlier. He's played this many games. And the whole thing with load management, it's a lawyers and agents world now. And you know how I hate it. It's a lawyers and agents world now. It's like the money that they're making now. And it's like the contracts are completely different. Completely. They aren't just cash. They are a piece of the pie, a piece of the ownership when it's over with. He gets a piece of Apple, any kind of Apple subscriptions. He gets a piece of that and all that kind of stuff. He's a businessman. And I mean, at the same time, Ronaldo is getting cash, but it's 1 year from Saudi Arabia. He's getting this. But at the same time, the better contract is what is happening with Messi. It's that he's a businessman. But when you play for cash, you're more likely to play hurt. When you play for business, you're more likely not. And Messi's getting older. And do I like it? No, my hero is Larry Bird. My hero is Larry Bird. And you talk about somebody who played every drop of himself into everything left until it was over. And I miss that, and it makes me despise James Harden. It makes me do all that. But at the same time, I understand that this world is changed.
Right. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and it's changed. And that's the way it's going to be. And the contracts that are coming out now are more for ownership things and different, the ownership stakes and different deals now. And which means you aren't going to play tough guy when you're playing businessman. They don't go hand in hand.
Excellent points all the way around, Jacob. It is a businessman world. And unfortunately, we're going to see more of these than we will less of these. It just so happens in the magnitude for which it happens, 72,000 people were there. A lot of them probably paid a whole lot of money. Probably for all we know, they could pay the rent, with month's rent, 1 or 2 months rent for what they paid, only to not see what they were getting. Of course, anybody that spends that kind of money might have disposable income anyways, but it's not the point. It's more of a principle type of thing. All right, Jeremy, I'll turn it over to you. All right, go ahead, Jacob. You have something you want to add?
Real quickly about Leaping Larry Shane. I think it's Chene, not Shane. Just for your brother, just there, a little information.
My dad.
But I think it's,
My dad.
Yeah, your dad. Your dad,
Yeah.
that's Chene, I believe. But
Go ahead.
you can look the thing up, but that's the thing. It's like one thing to Mr. U. One thing to Terry Crews said during the whole situation about that people wondered why he didn't just crush it was the agent that fondled him during one of these parties. They asked why this muscle guy didn't crush him, why he didn't crush the agent. He says, because I'm a businessman now. When you're a businessman, you can't be tough guy. And it's like they won't go hand in hand. And whether we agree or not, there's the point.
So what happens, man, when people start realizing that these guys might not show up to games? It could affect ticket prices. Is anything going to ever change then?
Well, it's not, because you're going to take a risk. You might just say it might be like fantasy football. It might be fantasy football. It's like he's had 4 straight weeks of horrible play, but he might throw 400, and then you benched him. And it's like, and this guy might have missed 4 straight games with Atlanta, but I'm not going to go this time because I don't trust it. Oops, he showed up. So it's going to be like that. That's the whole thing. You just don't know.
You're right, though.
Jeremy,
that's sad.
Jeremy, read your dad's comment real quickly, and I'll let you comment on this. Go ahead.
Leaping Larry, Shane, and the Sheik, just to name a couple that he remembers from back in the old days.
Sheik's hard to not remember. All right, Jeremy, go ahead.
Load management, you know what it is? The newer generation has a constitution that's as soft as melted butter. That's all that's going on in America. It has to do with the workforce. It has to do with sports. It has to do in everything. You got people with a $25 an hour wage requirement and a $3 work ethic. I mean, that's what we got going on.
Not even that high, Jeremy.
Well, I'm just giving an analogy to the separation.
Yeah, I'll say, being a South Florida resident I'm not surprised this happened. I'm really not. Let's face it. They got what they have right now is they're going to have Pioneer Park opening up in a couple of years, and they need to get this guy ready to open it. You talk about Babe Ruth, the house that Ruth built well, and new Yankee Stadium, the house that Steinbrenner built. This is a house that ultimately Messi's going to build right down in Miami. It's taking him forever to get it done. You bring this guy in here, and all of a sudden, how quickly do the shovels get in? A whole lot quicker than they would any other way. So I'm not surprised. I just really, really feel bad for the Atlanta fan base out there because, hey, listen, it had a heck of a crowd. But to me, there's an unfairness part of it. But yeah, Jeremy, goes back to what you said, okay? And the fact that this generation is a whole lot different than the one that we're accustomed to, which is why people like Larry Bird, and we can get into a whole show on this. But the timing of this, to me, it doesn't look good. 12 matches already. Now we'll pick and choose. We're not done talking about this. I just wanted to mention up since it happened last night. So, any final thoughts on either of these two topics? I'll leave it open to you. Mr. U?
We don't have enough time.
Well,
now I'm thinking about the NBA and LeBron. Like, we don't have enough time on this show.
Well, don't worry, Mr. U. You're not
it looks like LeBron's your hero.
Hey, Mr. U. Let me explain something to you.
My hero, but I know who the GOAT is, though.
Hey, Mr. U, I got news for you. Okay,
yes, I know who he is. It's not LeBron.
This is your first act, and the way I look at it, it's the first of many. If you're interested in returning,
you guys are kicking me out and banning me, I'm good.
Like I said, just keep us help building the subscribers so we can both see both of our platforms go. And I know, and just having you here to me is just another capable voice to talk about the main events. Just so happens today's topics are really two topics that I felt like don't get a lot of attention. They're from different sports outside of the 4 major sports, right, Jeremy? And that was one of the things that we put this program together, that we were looking to go ahead and do much different things. And these two topics today seem to fit what we were planning in the beginning, right, Jeremy?
Absolutely.
All right. So all right, Jeremy, I'm going to start with you right now before we wrap this broadcast up. Tell us what you have going here for Football Sunday, Jeremy.
Well, I've got NFL Network on the TV, trying to wait for injury news, because that comes out shortly. It's sometime between 10:30 and 11 a.m. They got to make sure that everybody who's betting know who they can hedge their bets with, because that's what the injury report's for, whatever anybody thinks or not. Number 2, I'm just going to enjoy a day with the family, maybe write my post-game article afterwards. But other than that, I'm going to sit here and enjoy some football. I don't just watch the Lions. I watch it all because I cover the NFL too.
Very good. All right. Well, that's good. All right. So we know your day is, and of course, Candy and Emily and I have the Miami Marlins against the Atlanta Braves. I guarantee you, nobody will have to pay $2,000 ticket there. That's for sure. So I think I have to worry about that problem down at Lone Depot Park. Mr. U, what do you have on tap the rest of your Sunday?
It'll be all NFL. I haven't written anything yet. I couldn't do anything with that game on Thursday night. Nothing. Not talking about it on Monday morning show, but I'm looking for the games today. I'm going to see if the Giants are going to put a team on the field today against the Cardinals. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I have hopes. I hope they're going to go out there and actually throw the ball and catch it and run with it. Football stuff. So hopefully that
happens. Too much, Mr. U.
So, Mr. U, what I want you to do right now, since we have a couple moments here, I want everybody in the audience to get to know a lot more about you, about what you do on Twitter and all the different things. I should have mentioned that earlier, but I'd rather save it toward the end anyway, so that you have a little time. Let everybody know more about Mr. U and the fact that we're certainly going to be inviting you back as often as you want to come on. The floor is yours.
About me?
God. Yeah.
Well, we got a show called They Call Me Mr. U, the podcast. I'm not the focal point of the show. I'm just kind of a moderator with it. We're on Monday mornings, 9 a.m. EST. Anywhere you get your podcast, and on our YouTube channel as well. We talk sports and life, usually Monday mornings from Tuesday to Friday. A lot more inspirational stuff, a lot more teaching and professional development, entrepreneurship. We kind of run the gamut on something like that. But for the most part, it's football on Monday mornings. So today, I'm doing a whole lot of research, getting some stuff ready. Hope my guys go out against the Cardinals and actually play a football game and actually win it. That'd be nice. Wouldn't mind seeing the Cowboys get beat by the Jets too. That wouldn't hurt me. That'd be great. But aside from that, man, just like you guys watching football, man, excited about the season being back. We mourn it when it's gone. We go in the morning when it's gone. So just kind of enjoying it when it's here and enjoying hanging with you guys and talking sports, man. This has been really fun, man.
These younger generations have been trying to promote LeBron as the GOAT to us old heads. And they said, wait. It gets better. He goes, in LeBron James' career, he's had 15 50-point games. I said, yeah, so what? MJJ had 31 of them.
Yeah, right.
In less seasons.
Yeah. I don't argue with him. I don't argue with
him. Don't get us going there, Jeremy.
No. That's not even saying it. The young heads are trying to say that LeBron James would beat up John Jones in a UFC fight if he was trained.
Yeah, there you
go. They go that far. Forget the whole MJ thing. They go that far to think he's actually a tough guy.
People bump into him on the court, and he falls down and begins to cry.
That's the point. The younger people think of the younger people have a wrong idea of what badass is now. They do. It's because of LeBron. He flops and he falls down, and then he pretends he's hurt, then he comes back. They think, oh my God, he's a warrior. No, a warrior is playing with a.
No. Check this out. No, I loved the NBA, the 90s. Was my favorite era. You know why? Because of guys on Detroit, like Lane Beer, Vinny the Microwave. That was my favorite team, but I loved the 90s because those guys were actually tough guys. Sean Kemp, the guy wasn't soft. The glove, they weren't soft. They were actually tough guys. I mean, even guys on the team like Anthony Mason on the Knicks, John Starr, those guys stood up to Jordan head to head, weren't afraid. They didn't win all the time, but they were real basketball players. These guys here right now, I don't know what.
Try Bird.
Well, it's amazing how you say that.
Bird's in there. Bird and McHale, they're in there. Trust me.
So now
they told me that I can't name them all. I can't name them all. They had guys on the Sacramento Kings that were legit tough guys. I can't name the whole guys.
These are men. These were men.
All right, so here, let me ask you guys a question real quick. Sorry to interrupt y'all, okay? And I haven't decided on this yet, but I'll wait till I feel better from all my medical. I kicked around the tires about bringing a form of Basket Bros back at some point down the road. Don't know when, probably November and December, January. But, if I decide to do it once in a while, in place of this, we might have enough participants to bring it back once in a while. So we'll leave it open. And now that we have Mr. U who could probably bring it in some way, we might consider doing it in a form where we talk a little bit about the yesteryear as well as current as well as college.
Oh, God.
Back in the 90s and before,
everybody in favor of something like that? Or
yeah, sure. But back in the 90s and before, if a player in basketball didn't play a minimum of 92% of their games, they were considered injury prone back then. Remember that?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And
So
also,
just so you know, we'll
it
keep
was the same in football. If you'd only
right,
missed a game, you weren't injury prone. You
right.
missed 3, you were a bum.
That's true. Yeah, well, so those are just some of the things that we're thinking about down the road. No decisions have been made. I'm kicking the tires there. I have to make sure that certain things get done, but at least I know that as I continue to find more and more individuals that talk about these things, Mr. You'll definitely be a candidate for something like that. Should we go ahead and put something together if you're ever interested in talking about it?
I'd be glad. I'd be glad.
Yeah. So, but meanwhile, with that said, I have a game to get to. So here's what we're
You
going
forgot
to do.
me.
Well, no, I haven't forgotten about you yet. No, I haven't. I saved Mr. Opinion for. I never forget about you.
I'm Mr. Fact. I just don't have the glasses.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. So with that said, Mr. U, any other way that people get a hold of you real quick? I know you mentioned a few, or did you get it all out there?
Yeah, on Twitter they call me Mr. UMRYU, and of course by the same name MISTAYU on our YouTube channel. You can find us there. We're talking sports, family, and life. Having a good time doing it too.
Beautiful.
Great
All
meeting
right.
you guys.
All right. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Well, you can find me on the SouthFloridaTribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading, where you can find me with a list of great authors such as Scott Morganroth and George Eichhorn. There's myself in that list as well. You can also find me on my channel here on YouTube, which is Kneecap Biting with the Detroit Lions, where I talk about the NFL and the Lions. You can also find me on the South Florida Tribune channel on any show that Scott needs me to show up. I'll pop in. I don't care. Wisconsin, Florida, Michigan. It don't matter.
Go Blue.
All right. You know what, Jeremy? Why don't you read your dad's comment before we turn over to Jacob?
Wilt Chamberlain was asked if he could average 50 points a game in today's rules. He said, I would average 100 points a game. He played one step, not 3.
Good to get that out there. All right, Jacob. Everybody know how they can hold you.
All right. Sunday's here. Also, I am Jake the Pundit on Twitter, Jake the Pundit 1 on TikTok. I am. Let's see here. I'm also on the Substack. I'm also working on my Patreon. Got a bunch going. Monday nights off the top. The Top Rope Talks with the Sniper and the Pundit. Tuesdays nothing. Wednesdays is the Sports Exchange with Motorman with Motorman over here. The Sports Exchange, and then Confidential. Thursday nights, the Pundit's Pundit, my show, the Pundit's Pundit, which I'll tell you, Mr. You don't know this part yet. This is a better but less producing version of Outside the Lines. We talk everything. Scott's one of our guys with it. You would love it.
I like it already.
Yes, it is. We have had topics like, Scott. This is one of Scott's first ones with his first show. We had one called the Martial Arts and Police Reform. We had those types. We already have that, and we talk about new stadiums. We talk about women's sports. We do it all. So we get that, and then I am on the Gauntlet on Fridays when they call me. So I'm kind of on the bench on that. So I've got a lot going on, and I'll be going to Bobby G's today to watch the Bears get their absolute butt kicked. So don't even talk about the Giants. They had an off week against a great defense. The Bears, averaged 14 points and lost in the last 11.
You think that's the same, Jacob? That's
What?
like apples and kumquats. It's not the same thing at all.
No, the Bears are worse than the Giants by 50 miles, and they didn't have to be.
All the money they spend, they'll put to be ruling the division because Aaron Rodgers wasn't there anymore. They were talking about the Bears all off season.
Oh, I know. I'm irritated.
To win, so
I'm irritated because none of this mattered. None of this should have pulled in.
They still had us third in the division preseason.
Yeah.
They didn't care what we did.
Oh, I knew the Bears. See, before we go, here's my thing. This was never necessary. The Bears were a playoff team 3 years ago. This was a bunch of goofy fans. This is a bunch of goofy fans who blasted on Mitch Trubisky, who was doing fine in a system. And they had to go for what was pretty, just like they always do. And now they've lost even worse.
Yeah, too bad that system was a Tecmo Bowl playbook for offense.
Well, at the same time, they were whipping Detroit.
Well, you know what? You know what? I'll say this much. To be continued. Okay?
Yep.
To be continued.
It is.
All right, and of course, Ken, look forward to seeing you again. Yeah, there you go.
The way you said it, you said,
what were you thinking? But
you, why you again?
Trubisky killed you.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm glad he's gone. I was so happy. It's kind of like Karen Rodgers being gone.
Yeah.
Kudos to him. He went out at his age and playing football. But, you know, he may have had 4 snaps, but he ended up with a 5th before he had to be carried off the field.
That's true.
Let's make sure everybody knows one more time that the Professor and the Pupil being broadcast around the world, the audio version of Professor and the Pupil can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple Store to get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Chat room's one way to do it. Please, and your topic idea, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter @TribuneSouth. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes, comes on shows, whatever. Today she'll be taking photos of the Atlanta Braves and the Miami Marlins. Great act here today, Mr. U, and certainly I'm looking forward to having you on a lot more. I can already tell by the comments that everybody's looking forward to a lot more of the things that we're going to do collectively. My goal is to find individuals that really are passionate about what they do, and I'll leave on this note, okay? I don't normally add shows unless they make sense, but I know in my mind that Pundit's Pundit was an absolute no-brainer because to me, it reminds me of 60 Minutes in 2020. And if anybody is journalistically sound about what type of a magazine show it is, Pundit's Pundit is one that I was really glad when the opportunity that Jacob and Denzel brought to my attention to do it. I had to make sure in my mind it was a good fit. I don't have time to produce so many shows because I'm very busy on the road and writing and doing a lot of stuff, but this was an absolute no-brainer, and I'll leave it at that. So this is what you're part of now, Mr. U, as we have a plethora of different shows that we can fit in as time progresses. So I'm just glad.
Feel free to watch one, Mr. U. Feel free to watch one. And you are now you're on my thing. Be careful with Twitter. You're now on my Twitter thing, which means you're going to see some brutality on Bears fans.
I'm going to say the same thing I said a few minutes ago. Nothing's going to change. You guys are supposed to be doing something different.
I know.
You should be better.
Well,
it's just
we are.
You now.
But meanwhile,
why is it not happening? That's the question.
Terrible infrastructure. Terrible.
So meanwhile, folks, this concludes this edition of the Professor and the Pupil. The title of the show is Big Time Wrestling. Why? Well, you know what? All 4 of us dropped a lot of names out there. And, you know, we were able to connect a lot of different ways. You talk about connecting the dots in wrestling. I feel like we've done that. And then we even sprinkled a little bit of Lionel Messi on there as the icing on the cake, as the old cliche world says. So meanwhile, on behalf of Mr. U, Jeremy Ballrick, Jacob Christer, my name is Scott Morgan, Routh of Motor City Manmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Professor and the Pupil, and we will catch you on our next episode. Everybody have a great football Sunday, and I'm off to the ballpark. Good night, good afternoon. Have a great weekend, everybody.
I know you're old, you have to get sleep early, but this isn't night.
I know, I didn't sleep early at all. All I did last night was watch Colorado and Colorado State, and I watched all 4 hours of that.
What a game. What a game.
But that'll be addressed later. All right. Take care, everybody. And we'll catch you on the next edition. Check out South Florida Tribune YouTube channel with all of our shows. Bye-bye.